We are live. You're playing the music.
Mukotoni wokaya ya ionalelo mukotoni wokaya ya ni wokaya ya uwaona unavana owe yelelo ionalelo owe yelelo ni wokaya ya uwaona unavana owe yelelo ionalelo owe yelelo ni wokaya pia waona ulavana owe yelelo ionalelo owe yelelo ni wokaya pia waona ulavana owe Shambe shina posa ionalelo shambe shina posa ndechitashani newaluokoa owe yelelo ionalelo owe yelelo ndechitashani newaluokoa owe yelelo ionalelo owe yelelo ndechitashani newaluokoa owe yelelo ionalelo owe yelelo ndechitashani newaluokoa owe sonsontilo mwana iyo walelo sonsontilo mwana mwana wandina sumwa kumalonda owe sonsontilo mwana iyo walelo sonsontilo mwana mwana wandina sumwa kumalonda owe Shambe shina posa Shambe shina posa ne walu okoa owe yelelo yelelo owe yelelo yelelo owe yelelo yelelo owe yelelo yelelo Shambe na totela owe yele Shambe shuna bosa Samsung tiga mana Bachi sunkana totela Badakana totela owe yele Bampundu never not totela Bampundu never not totela Badakona totela Bashidima
Our viewers, welcome wherever you're watching us all over the world. Welcome to this special edition of the Bakwetu TV. This program is called the Business Talk Show, and today we'll be talking about the high incidence of road traffic accidents in Zambia. One might be asking, why are we talking about accidents when we're a business show? You must know that for business to thrive, transport is one of the most important factor of production. Without proper transport system, road network, regulation, business cannot thrive, and jobs cannot be created. And today we've got a very important topic. Please start sharing, and also please come and join us. I've already shared the link. You can have the link and come and contribute later. You can come and ask questions to my two guests. Yeah. Before we start, I just want to say happy birthday, happy 58th birthday to our lovely mother Zambia. And that song was by one of our Zambian brothers, Mr. Chasaya. He's based in Canada. And the title of the song was Mukonto, featuring the Sakala brothers. Before we start, I wish to introduce my two guests. My main guest is Mr. Nason Bimber. He's based in Sussex, not far away from my house. And then my other guest is Mr. Kelvin Nkole, who is not a stranger to me. I met Mr. Nkole in 2008 or 9 when he was working in Brighton. He was a British trained engineer, then moved back to Zambia, came back to the UK, back to Zambia, and then we are together with him. I would love I'll start with Mr. Bimbe. Mr. Bimbe, can you please introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening to all Bakwetu viewers. I'm not new to this show. My name is Nason Bimber. An ICT digital knowledge specialist, just as simple as that. First of all, thank you very much, Mr. Chilufya, for the invitation, and thank you very much to my panelist, Mr. Kelvin Nkole. Welcome. And yeah, happy birthday to Zambia. Happy 58th birthday to Zambia. It's a big number. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bimbe. Mr. Nkole, you're on the spotlight. Welcome to Bakwetu TV for the first time. Please introduce yourself. Brief introduction.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's a slight delay on my line, so you have to bear with me.
No problem.
Just thumbs up if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Kelvin Nkole. I'm a professional engineer registered with the EIZ here in Zambia. Mr. Chilufya has just revealed some of my past experience. I've worked in the UK. I've done work in different parts of the world. My work has taken me to different places. Some very interesting, some not so interesting. And over the past 20 plus years, I've done quite a bit of traveling, and I can say that traveling by road is one of the biggest occupational risks that I've faced in my working career. I've been involved in a road traffic accident while at the wheel myself, so I've experienced that risk becoming a very close shave on my own life. I currently live in Lusaka. I'm married with 3 children, and yeah, I hope to have some interesting interactions with everyone here. Happy Independence Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kelvin Nkole. And our viewers, let's go into our topic. The theme of this show today is high incidence of road traffic accidents in Zambia. So the topic for discussion is what could be contributing to the increase in and in general road traffic accidents in our country, Zambia, and the possible interventions that can be put in place to help reduce the incidents and ultimately the loss of lives. First and foremost, we are not experts. None of the three of us are experts in this field. However, we are interested party as Zambians that are concerned with the situation. We thought by bringing this topic for discussion, we hope we'll be contributing A, the identification of the contributing factor, B, identifying interventions, C, last but not the least, educate a few of our compatriots. To put the topic into context, we are going to start by taking a look at the article titled 597 killed in 8,909 traffic accidents recorded in Zambia during the third quarter of 2022, published in the lusakatimes.com of the 11th of October 2022, which is just recently, a few weeks ago. Zambia Police Service, through the police spokesperson, Mr. Ray Hamonga, who we interviewed here on Vakwetu TV early last year, described the situation statistically and also offered some ideas on the probable contributory factors to the road traffic accidents on the Zambian roads. In the terms of incidents, Mr. Hamonga said, during the third quarter of 2022, a total number of 8,919 road traffic accidents were recorded countrywide, compared to 8,059 recorded in the same year in 2021, which means almost 1,000 more accidents have happened up to October 22. We haven't even finished the year compared to the previous year. So 502 were recorded as fatal road traffic accidents, in which 597 persons were killed, compared to 469. So the numbers are increasing on fatal accidents recorded in 2021. And then there were 505 persons killed in 2021. 919 were serious road accidents, in which 1,583 persons were seriously injured, compared to 756 road traffic accidents recorded in 2021, out of which 1,345 persons were seriously injured. 1,644 were recorded as slight road traffic accident, in which 447 persons were slightly injured compared to 1,511 recorded in 2021. Another increase there. And then there were 2,216 persons were slightly injured, and 5,804 were recorded as damage-only road traffic accidents, compared to 5,523 recorded in 2021. In the third quarter of 2022, we recorded an increase in both fatal road traffic accidents recorded and persons killed by 33 and 12 respectively. These are percentage. On serious only road traffic accidents, we also recorded an increase both number of accidents and persons seriously injured by 143% and 128%, while 128%, while in slight only road accidents with 1,392 representing 15.6%, Central Province 710 representing 7.9%, Southern Province 509 representing 5.5%, Northwestern Province 353 representing 3.9%, Eastern Province 334 representing 3.7%, Luapula with 236 representing 2.6%, Northern Province with 210 representing 2.4%, Western Province with 209 representing 2.6%. Last but not the least, Muchinga Province with 199, actually the least, last and the least, representing 2.2%. Before I just want to look at some of the contributing factor Mr. Hamonga said before I could pose the question to my guests. On the road accidents were increasing due to low compliance levels on the part of most road users, especially the motorcyclists, and the pedal cyclists. This assertion was justified by the number of admission of guilt fines, and where he said a total sum of 14,489,842 kwacha was collected as admission of guilt fines in the third quarter of 2021, as compared to 15,203,000 collected in the same period in 2022. The figure shows an increase in admission of guilty by 713,929. Most of the accidents in the third quarter of 2022 were attributed to human error, as indicated below. Excessive speed, 1,462, representing 16.4%. Misjudging clearance distance, 1,366, representing 15.3%. Failing to keep to near side, 1,334, representing 14.9%. Cutting in, 654, representing 7.3%. Reversing negligently, 615, representing 6.8%. To my viewers, to my guests, I'll start with Mr. Bimber, who is my main guest. Having listened to what Mr. Hamonga said as reported in the article, what are your thoughts?
Thank you very much. I don't know whether I lost the connection. Can't see Mr. Kelvin.
No, Mr. Kelvin is back.
Oh, he's back. Okay, thank you very much. The statistics really are scary, and considering that it's just based on a quarter, that's That's quite a lot. And yeah, I feel something really needs to be done. We really need to be serious to look at what is contributing to these accidents, although they've been highlighted here, and finding a solution to this issue. As Mr. Nkole alluded to, is one of the biggest, occupational hazards nowadays, because people need to travel to their markets, to the workplaces, and all sorts of things. So having safer roads is really, really important for the development of the country. Thank you.
Are you there? Okay. Mr. Kelvin Nkole, what are your thoughts?
Oh, you are mute.
You are mute, Kelvin. I'll unmute you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can, Kelvin.
I'm getting feedback.
Yeah. Have you got any gadget nearby yourself? Okay, Kelvin, you can go ahead. You've muted yourself.
Okay, I was having a problem with my connection on the laptop, so I joined on my phone as well. I think that's why I was getting feedback. You can hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah, so
those are quite scary statistics. I mean, accidents going up, but I think I have to agree with quite a lot of what the police have said through their spokesperson, Mr. Amonga. Uh, it just takes you to drive along Lusaka roads to see just some of the craziness that happens on our roads. Not just Lusaka, but any of the highways. You drive along the roads, and you can see for yourself. You just have to be an observant driver, or if you are not observant, if you've been trained in what do they call it again, defensive driving, you will see that immediately you go on the road, you are exposed to hazards. There's an accident waiting to happen anywhere. And one thing I
sorry, our viewers. I think we're experiencing some internet challenges in Zambia. We've lost Mr. Kelvin. I think we're gonna continue. Um Mr. Bimber, while we're trying to get Mr. Kelvin back, he mentioned some of the contributing factors there, but can you add some? Okay, can you? Okay, Kelvin is back.
I,
Kelvin, are you back?
I think I need to change my service provider.
Okay.
Do I still have the floor?
Yes, you do.
Oh, yes, you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, you can talk without the video. We are listening you.
Okay, yeah.
We are
I
hearing
was
you.
saying the admission of guilt, I don't think are good statistics to go by, because people tend to pay those admission of guilt fines just to close the case, really. But the other statistics are quite scary, and I have to say that driver training, the number of cars on the roads has gone up. It doesn't take you to be an expert to notice that the number of vehicles on our roads have gone up. The type of driver training is not really up to scratch. There are a lot of people driving automatics who don't understand the rules of the road. You can be following someone behind, and you are very sure they have no idea that you are behind them because they don't check their mirror. So, as someone who's properly trained, you can notice a lot of hazards happening on the road. People cutting in, joining the road at junctions without stopping. There are a lot of distractions, people using phones while driving. So it's a countless number of issues, and it would be nice if we had someone from RATSA to give us an angle from their side on what they're doing actually to sensitize drivers on how to maneuver these machines that we drive around in. They're actually machines that need proper training.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll end there for now.
Yeah, Kelvin, I just want, you are in Zambia. You lived in the UK, and you know that we've got Brighton has more cars where you lived, has more cars than Lusaka. But the statistics cannot be compared to what was in the whole Zambia. And then the other thing, Kelvin, is here in the UK, when they are training people how to drive, they don't train them to drive a vehicle from A to B, just to move the machine from A to B. They teach people with an awareness of safety, and also and also they teach them to respect the other drivers and the pedestrians. That awareness that there are other people on the road, and you're not just driving the vehicle from A to B. What do you think is
Exactly.
the training of drivers in Zambia done properly, or are people properly trained, or does it mean a lot of people have just bought licenses?
Well, I don't know about buying licenses, but the driver training, I think, is not really up to the standard it should be for the number of vehicles on the roads. I got my driving license initially in Zambia. That's more than 20 years ago. I moved to the UK, and I had to retrain. Yeah, it's a requirement to get a UK driving license. If you are from Zambia, you have to go through another driving test. And if I compared the two, driver training and driver tests, they are miles apart. And there's a need for the Zambian driver training to undergo an overhaul so that drivers are trained proper courtesy on the road, even tested, and noticing hazards. The theory test in the UK teaches you hazard awareness, and even when you're driving along during the test, you are tested on whether you can pick up hazards. I noticed in Zambia, people think slowing down is a hazard, and they use their hazard warning lights. But the brake lights are there to warn a driver behind you. But you see people using their hazard warning lights in a very wrong way. Yeah. And when there's a real hazard on the road, like an accident has happened, you'll be approaching an accident and no one has their hazard warning lights on. So it just shows you that there's something amiss about our driver training. And people, they'll be turning at a junction using their hazard lights instead of indicating with a proper turning signal. There's it's quite interesting. Maybe I should install a dash cam so that I can be capturing some of the mistakes I notice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kelvin, you 100% spot on. The other thing, Kelvin, when I moved to South Africa, to Zambia, I came from South Africa. So I got my first license in South Africa. So when I came to the UK, I thought I was going to go and retrain, because all my Zambian friends were retraining and going through the normal process. But when I submitted my license, they told me, from South Africa, we're just going to change it to the UK. But I still had to do what is known as there's another training they do, defensive driving. I think you know it.
Yeah.
So I had to do it for insurance purposes and also for my employer. And that really, really helped me. But it looks like South Africa, as better training regime than Zambia. So why can't we learn from Zambia, from South Africa? You know, if South African driver's license can be automatically transferred to the UK one, then South African driving education is far much better than us. Why can't we learn from them, Kelvin?
That's a good question. Yeah, and I think we would need to ask that question to Ratsa.
Yeah, I think one day we'll bring them in. We'll try to do that. This is just the beginning. We'll try to bring them in with your connection in Zambia. We'll bring them in, and then we'll come back again and ask them these questions, because we can't be having so many accidents with fewer cars. South Africa has more cars than Johannesburg alone has more cars than the whole Zambia, but they won't have these statistics we are having here. Sister Barbara, we're talking about contributing factors. I don't know whether you heard about the statistics of the road accidents in Zambia, and these were given by Mr. Ray Hamonga, who is the police spokesperson, on this month in October. And what are your thoughts about the increase in fatality as a result of road accidents in Zambia? What could be wrong in Zambia? You've driven in Zambia, you've driven here. Over to you, Dr. Barbara, and welcome to TVBakwetu.
Oh, unmute.
Unmute, Dr. Barbara.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Patrick, and the viewers, and our guest, Pasho. I think, the problem in Zambia is that we have the same teachings like this, exactly the same ones like the ones they probably have in UK. We just normally don't put things into practice, and then we don't update them as years go along. In the UK now, all the young kids who are having their driving lessons, they're having the theory added on. Before, there was no theory that has been added on. So things have to evolve, because when they added on the theory, they were also having more accidents. So it means something else had to be added on. And then in Zambia, there isn't any real penalty for people who are driving badly. A person can have an accident or can drive badly. They'll still be in the same roads a couple of weeks after, or, there isn't, the penalty is not really there. For example, for somebody like me, I now have glaucoma. I have to go back and have a test. Obviously, I can't drive anymore because I'm still having surgeries in my right eye. Those things are updated immediately. That you can't, if you just wake up in the morning and tell yourself, "Oh, I just need to go to, it's raining, let me just go to the supermarket, I'll come back." If the police stops you, you can even lose your license, your medical license, because all these things are linked. Whereas in Zambia, there's so much, the penalties are not that stringent. They're not really, really strong. They don't deter anybody. You're either stopped, they give you a warning, you can easily bribe a police person if you so wished, and tomorrow goes on. I remember, the bus, when I was in Zambia, at my mother's, I went to do a tombstone for my mother and my father's graves. I remember we got on the bus, and then we had a van to carry the stones from Lusaka to Kitwe. When we were on the bus, I've never prayed the way I prayed on that day. This driver, they were competing with the driver in front. Who's driving faster? Pingana told me, us will reach Ndola at this time, we'll reach in Ndola. Oh my God.
Yes.
Overtaking anyhow, when they're overtaking, you know that you've just missed an accident by an inch.
Yeah, and you should have gone and spoken to the driver.
Nobody, they don't even care, because nobody will stop them. It's just you and where there's no speed limit. These are public buses where people are being carried, their families, and there's no speed limit for those buses. They can drive the way they like. They can overtake one another. They can they can even be broken down if they so wish. You will get into this bus, you get into Ndola, or if something has broken down, they mend it right there and there. Again, they are competing with the other drivers. Or the boss told him that at least they should make, I don't know how many trips between Lusaka and Kitwe, so they are fighting to hit target or whatever. All those things, they have to be, about RTA, they have to look at them. How many journeys can one bus make between Lusaka and Kitwe whilst people are safe? What's the drive limit? Even, it doesn't matter the condition of the road, all that has to be taken into consideration. Okay, at the moment, the government doesn't have money to repair this railroad between Ndola and Kitwe. So the speed limit at this moment in time, until the road is made, should be this much. So if a bus goes through that road and they've reached Quito within 20 seconds, you know that the people are at risk. Even just looking at the accidents, these accidents are not, like if you see the impact, the last 3 accidents I saw, the impacts on the cars, they look like they fell there was a bomb.
Yeah.
Completely damaged. That means the car was racing, was on so much high speed, and there was high impact on those cars that it's practically impossible for the person in the car to survive.
Yeah,
it's really,
that's
it's so
excessive speed.
scary.
And did that vehicle had airbags?
No,
I don't think so.
No, the ones that I've seen so far, none of them had airbags. The impact was so high. If you see the front bits of these cars, it's like they were made by wire cars. And you ask yourself, what type of impact that motokayas yaonaika so? You see all these accidents in the UK. If you see such an impact, you know that something massive happened. Maybe there was snow, and then the tracks and a lot of things happened at that time. But these are cars where there's just one driver or maybe 2 people. If you see the impact, maybe drink driving was involved between one of them, and they were speeding. Nobody was driving within the speed limits that they're supposed to. It's really, really dangerous.
Speed is one of the reasons given in those statistics. And
yes.
So, Mr. Kelvin, I'll put you on the spotlight. You talking, Mr. Kelvin. I was in Zambia in June, and I drove from Lusaka to the Copper Belt. That road is worse than Hellrun. And you've seen, I've put it on the flyer. It's unbelievable. But in that road, Mr. Kelvin, Mr. Nkole, I saw buses overtaking me, one after the other. They were so fast. There are no marks. And then, to show that this is the speed limit. Don't you think all the intercity roads should be dual carriageway?
Ideally, yeah. I think in one of my submissions, I did say our road infrastructure has not kept up with the increase of traffic. And this particular road between Lusaka and Copper Belt is one case which is a totally outdated road. The amount of traffic on that road, and it's just unbelievable that we still have just a single lane going in each direction after so many years. But having said that, I think one other thing you'll notice is there are a lot of trucks carrying heavy goods like copper and all kinds of things. Yeah.
Which is supposed to go by rail.
Yeah. If you removed all the trucks from the road, you would, I think, more than halve the amount of traffic. So the justification for a dual carriageway would be lessened. In fact, I took a picture just today. I spotted a train on the railway line carrying about 52 20-ton containers. Now you can count how many trucks that is you've removed from the road just by putting one train. Yeah, it's over 20 trucks, maybe about 30 trucks that you've taken off the road just with one train, goods train.
Yeah.
Now, if the government could seriously look at improving the railway infrastructure and gradually transferring all that, all those goods onto the railway line, then your road would have more capacity, so that even when you build a dual carriageway, it will just be for small vehicles and light trucks. Because I can foresee a situation where they put a dual carriageway and it will reach its capacity very quickly. Just like in Lusaka, Great East Road is now 3 lanes, but we're starting to get stuck in traffic. Just these roads are less than 2 years old, I think, but we're already having traffic jams. At some times of the day, you get traffic jams. So even a dual carriageway between Ndola and Lusaka won't completely solve the problem. Yeah, but that's just one road amongst the many that are congested, and the infrastructure is old. It has to be updated.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nkole. Mr. Bimber, before we move to the next question, one of the things we talked about was the vehicle fitness. You know, you've lived in the UK, you've lived in Zambia. Here in the UK, when you take my number plate and put it in a system, say if you want to buy my car, you will be able to know the service history, the owners of that vehicle. That's why a lot of people, when they discover that the vehicle has been owned by Dr. Barbara, the ladies, that vehicle, they'll be fighting for it to buy it because they think ladies are better drivers. They will show if that vehicle was involved in an accident. You know, they will show that if that vehicle has been serviced, MOT, and other things, maintenance. Don't you think that's one of the contributing factors? Because the way these vehicles are getting damaged, which means they are not roadworthy. What's your thought about that?
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a myriad of things. I think speed has been identified as the biggest culprit, and as Barbara said, well, Kelvin has said, the way the cars are mangled, not even in peri-urban areas where you expect traffic to be slower, they really mangled. That's mostly attributable to speed. The other thing, I like what Kelvin has mentioned, also trying to move a lot of trucks off the road, which means moving goods into the rail line, which is a good thing. It's a suggestion that I think needs to be taken on, because I think there is research that has shown, like in most developed countries, whereby no matter how many roads you build, the more roads you build, the more cars are on the roads. And since Kelvin has noticed that on the Great East Road, so they ought to be aware. With regards to just having systems that are able to be trusted in terms of the information that it gives out, i.e., is the car insured, is the car roadworthy, has it got a good service history? I think yeah, that is important. I suppose systems are there now. It's just a question of how they link them together. Now, from the discussion now, I can get that while the rules are there, I think enforcement and deterrent are very low. And I don't know, it's just a thought. I don't know, like Kelvin, who is in Zambia, would trying to force vehicles to have some sort of responders in the vehicles that measure speed. Like they've tried in certain countries where if you want to get a cheap premium on your insurance policy, they give you, you can opt to get these sensors in your vehicle that measures your speed and where you travel, what time. Then as an incentive, you get good insurance premium. Would that, if it's mandated into some of these, especially PSV vehicles and taxis, could that be a deterrent enough or a way of kind of monitoring this kind of speeding and traveling at wrong hours, or if you are, say, a PSV driver? I don't know. Would that be kind of a solution as a need in the short term? Because building more roads and making the infrastructure better is going to take long.
Kelvin,
Exactly.
maybe you can
I
answer
think
that
that
one.
was trialed.
Go ahead, Kelvin.
Yeah, that was trialed some years back on these speed restrictors, but on public service vehicles, especially the ones that travel long distance. But I don't know what happened with that program. I think that was during MMD days. Yeah, so but I think it worked to a certain extent, just like the banning of movement of public service vehicles at night also had some contribution to reduction in accidents. But yeah, I think certain interventions can definitely help. Yeah, to reduce especially accidents involving public service vehicles, because when those happen, they tend to affect many people. You're talking about 50 plus people either dead or injured. So that is definitely something that can work. And you mentioned, I think Patrick mentioned a database where you can search for a vehicle and you can be given information. I think the police are working on something like an app where they can actually punch in your number plate and they'll be able to tell whether your fitness is due or your road tax has expired and so on and so forth. So there's some technological what can I put it, innovations that are coming in.
Yeah.
So I think RTSA or RATSA as we call them and the police are open to such ideas.
Yeah.
And I think if you take it in through the insurance premiums, that would even be to the bus owners. That would be an extra incentive.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And besides, I've heard that some of the cameras that on the roads, I think in Lusaka, they are NPR capable, which means they are number plate recognition. They can do that. So if they are building such a database, it would be really a good idea to do that proactively, rather than once an accident happened, then you go backwards and check whether. I think that could also improve, and again, it can be a deterrent. The other thing I've also noticed the difference is in most countries, when they put a camera, a speed camera is not an income generating thing. It's a road safety thing. So a camera is never hidden to trap people, because you want to make people aware that, you can be caught. Unfortunately, I don't know how it happens, but I've heard stories of Zambia where police officers hide in the bushes to trap people who are speeding, rather than, making themselves visible so that it acts as a deterrent.
Yeah, Mr. Bimber, that point you've made.
There was an attempt at.
Oh, Mr. Nkole, I'll give you your time. Just hold your peace. Mr. Nkole, you made a point when I read the statistics from Mr. Hamonga. You were saying a lot of people were accepting the admission of guilt and pay because they were just trying to avoid taking the matter further, or being criminal or something like that. Go ahead, Mr. Nkole. Kelvin.
Yes, those admission of guilt fines, people just pay them so that they don't go to court. So they just admit, even if they know they were not wrong, because once you pay, the case ends there. You go home. But if you say no, I'm not guilty, it becomes your word against the arresting officer. and then you have to go to court, you go to trial, you spend money and time, and you lose the case anyway. So and after you lose the case, instead of paying a fine, you might be sentenced to weekend imprisonment for a month.
Yeah.
So just pay the fine and off you go. I
Yeah.
recently had to pay a fine for overtaking
Mm.
at a solid white line.
Yeah.
And if I were to go and show you where I overtook, the line is completely faded. And what the police
Mm.
officer told me was, you should have known.
Oh my God. Yeah. So before we move on, but Barbara, you live in the UK. Do you know that in the UK now there are cameras that can pick somebody who is talking on the phone or
Yeah,
not putting
even
the belt,
eating
not
or
putting the belt
talking
or
on the
eating?
phone. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So one of the causes of accidents in Zambia, we know some people who were friends who died because after drinking a lot and then they drive and they end up in accidents. People talk on the phone. I was so shocked one time in Zambia. I went to see some friends at Parliament, and that was Parliament Motel. We're talking of 10 years ago. A
Mhm.
friend of mine was driving from Parliament holding a phone, driving a GX,
Mhm.
bought, through taxpayers' money. So these are some of the things, because here that MP would resign the following day or the same day. So don't you think there should be education like Zambians? Here, when you see people drinking, they don't go with their vehicles. But Zambia, a drinking place, you might think it's a rally. Kelvin, you live in Zambia. You might
It's
think
full
there's a
of
rally
vehicles.
there. Yeah, full of vehicles. Now,
Mm.
those people will be finishing. We know some of our friends who have died after drinking like that, and then they want to drive home.
Exactly. You
So,
know, in
so what
South
should be
Korea,
done, Barbara? What should
it,
we tell Ratsa or the government of Zambia? What should be done?
it's important that everybody gets on top of community education, so that everyone within their communities through churches are educated in how to do things. Right now, our community awareness is centered on what prayer can I have to have more money? It's so materialistic instead of being productive. All those communities that meet every week can be used to educate the community on how they're supposed to live, how they're supposed to drive. In South Korea, they even have walking taxis. You know, like if you go out to have a drink, instead of calling a taxi, you can call somebody to come and drive your car because you've been drinking. And it's the responsibility of anyone who is at the bar, whether it's a pub, to call that number for you. If you don't call it, if you say you don't have money, they won't give you keys, because they also know that they're also protecting themselves, because over the years it's become normal. If somebody goes out for a drink, they already know that they can call a taxi that will come, a person taxi, somebody, like you call on a mobile number, somebody comes, there's an agency, it sends people, just like agency, nursing agencies, locum doctors, etc. You have locum taxi drivers. They come to that spot, they pick up your car, you get into the car, they drive you home, and they get paid, you reach home safely. Those are the things that we are supposed to be looking at as a society. We can't just be getting shocked when there's an accident and then start thinking there's an evil spirit falling in Zambia causing
Richard,
Yeah.
mayhem,
Richard.
when it's our own responsibilities that are causing these
Mm.
things. You know, in our country, we find it so okay to own the latest mobile phone, the latest iPhone 14 Pro, or whatever they call them. And a person who owns a minibus, if you see Simon Wewer's clips, you find a minibus waiting there. It's literally a skeleton. There are no seats, there's no nothing. It's packed. People are going to get into that minibus. The people getting on that minibus have got an iPhone 14, they've got an iPhone chakuti, a Samsung Flip, a Samsung. So if you are able to use such advanced IT phones, why can't you tell yourself I should be in a minibus that looks the way I'm dressed, that looks the way I'm holding my phone? How can you get into a minibus? You own you own a minibus. You own a fantastic car. You live in a fantastic house. You have all the IT you can think of, but outside you've parked a minibus. If you put tamuli ama cushion yonse yali bafe ni brown yali sukakare. There's no, the mats yamtuma minibus but ni skeleton ma pipes finama wire. Nobody cares. And then when something bad happens, we start blaming the devil when we are our own demons, honestly. If you're able to use an iPhone, brand new iPhone, with all its gadgets, with all the phones, and mention what comes with it and the apps and whatever, you should also be able to update your taxi, update your minibus, so that people should sit comfortably, so that they're not overloaded. All these things are personal responsibilities that our communities should look at, especially now that at independence, we should be looking at these things. 58 years old now, what are we supposed to be? We should stop passing the back to the colonizers because Kalevaya. We should stop passing the back on the demon because the demon is a spirit. He only works when you allow him. So we have to take responsibility. Our cars, our roads, our attitudes is what is causing the problem. I submit, Patrick.
Yeah, I think, Barbara, that's fantastic, because here in the UK, when I did defensive driving in South Africa some years ago, because I worked for a company that required us to do defensive driving on top of your normal driver's license. So the instructor told me something very, very important. I don't forget up to now. He told me that, Patrick, the moment you get into that road, he was pointing into the highway, because where we were doing the training was just next to the highway. Kilani, it's called and they do sports in Cape Town. He was telling me, Patrick, when you get into that road, you are the only normal person. All those people treat them as mad people.
Exactly.
So what he was telling me is, the moment you start thinking like that, you drive properly, because you think all the drivers around you are mad. You're the only normal person in the road. So what do? Make sure that those mad people don't hit you and you don't hit them. And you also take care of yourself and those mad people. So that really helped me a lot. Kelvin, did you want to say something before I move on?
No, I was just agreeing with your point on defensive driving. Yeah, you treat everyone. You behave as if other people don't know what they're doing, and you have to think
You're the best driver
ahead
of
of
the road.
them.
Yeah.
And the other interesting point made by our sister Barbara on there's a lot of superstition around accidents, and people claim, oh, around this time, October, November, there are people out for blood. But people don't realize that this time of year, it starts getting very hot, driver fatigue comes in, and when it starts raining, the early rains
raining, the
especially,
roads are slippery.
the roads become slippery. So there are a lot of conditions, but people just over spiritualize things. And there was a time even Ratsa is called for a prayer meeting against accidents. And I was thinking, these people should be the ones applying scientific methods, but they're the ones calling for prayer meetings and whatnot. Anyway.
You're 100% spot on, Kelvin. Kelvin, in the UK and some Eastern European countries, I think including German, during winter, because it's very cold, I think by Barbara and but even Kelvin, they start changing tires from normal tires to winter tires. So in Zambia, somebody with tires that are finished, but Kelvin, it's raining, it's hot. What do you expect?
Yeah. So there is quite a number of things that have come out here. I think the biggest one obviously is behavior change.
Yeah.
But how do you encourage that behavior change? Barbara mentioned something, the community itself can help with that. But also Drats and others can really help in sensitizing other people. The other thing is the road infrastructure. It's not just having good roads, but also signage on the roads, markings on the roads. I think that is very, very, very important because people don't know, as Kelvin has mentioned, where there was supposed to be a white line, but there's no white line. Then imaginary, yeah, it's there. You're supposed to know. So that is, I think, critical. I would also point to, which we talked about earlier, is the curriculum, the driving test curriculum. I don't know, I've seen people driving in those drums where you go. I don't know whether they teach them on the actual real roads, driving on the real roads, so that people are aware of that, what's going on. There is also this, in my mind, an idea of how is the whole licensing regime. Is it up to scratch? Even the testing, road fitness, they call it in Zambia, is it really up to scratch? In that, of course, corruption happens everywhere. I mean, dubious people happen, but is it really watertight that cars that go through that really, they say what they say? And would we say people who have licenses really deserve them in another way? So it's kind of what I'm trying to point to is how good are these, reliable are these testing regimes and licensing regimes currently? Okay, is there anything that can be done to strengthen the way they do things, either technology, either retraining, either whatever it is?
That was fantastic. Let's move on. And a second question before I ask the second question. And in conclusion, this is Mr. Hamonga. There has been an increase in road traffic accidents recorded in the third quarters of 2022 as compared to the third quarter of 2021. The increase is attributed to low compliance levels on the part of most road users, especially the motorist, motorcyclist, pedocyclist, as indicated in the increase of the accidents in Lusaka provinces, has continued recorded the highest number of road accidents because it has a high volume of motor vehicles and human populations compared to others. So they are saying, in essence, he is saying, because there are more vehicles, that's why there are more accidents. But then, and then motorists are involved also, and then motorcyclists also, and the pedocyclist. In the UK, I think all my panelists have lived in the UK. There's in Brighton especially, there is a lane for motorcyclists. There's a pavement for people who are walking. My question to you guys, Mr. Hamonga attributed factors such as low compliance level of most road users and singled out motorists, motorcyclists, pedocyclists. Would you agree with with that assertion, or they could be more? And if so, what would be? I will start with Barbara. Barbara, what do you think about that?
Thank you so much, Patrick. I think again, I go back to educating the masses on how to use the roads and what belongs to what. When you're in Europe, it's so easy to know which is the pavement for cyclists, for people that are walking, for, on the road. You have that in most places in Lusaka. You just wouldn't know that. You just know that, okay, we are in Davantu, Nama bicycle, but you don't know that's what it's meant for because there's no instruction, there's no labeling. So those things can be done. The pavements made user-friendly for the people there. Most of these are masked as where the ladies sell their tomatoes and the maize that we like buying by the road. Those areas where you see those marketeers doing their thing, those are the pavements that are meant supposed to be for for the people walking by and for the people that are on motorbikes. That's what they are meant for. But we've over the years agreed that those places are, you walk around and they're also market areas. So it's supposed to be an education to our people. And then in terms of compliance, when I lived in Cuba, Cuba has, you know, in the Western world, like in Zambia, in England, we've got there's a, how can I call it? There's a mollycoddling kind of culture. They tell you things in a nice way. They teach you. They hug you. In Cuba, it's a bit of a shock factor. So all the roads in Cuba where there's been an accident, there is a massive poster there with a cross and the names of the people that died there and the speed limit there. Automatically,
Maybe that's what we need.
the drivers automatically slow down. You don't even, there's no camera, there's no nothing. It's just, there are certain corners where there's like, you pass through a corner, there's like, oh, there's been one accident. And then there's those other ones where the names are just going and going and going. People there, the cars there literally just crawl because of the shock factor. So they know that maybe there's a bend, there's something, and people slow down. And there's even reasons of why the accident happened. There are some posters where there's a drunk driver, there's this, the people, a child died, a mother died, a pregnant woman died, you know, all those things there. That Kitwe Ndola Kabwe Road, I don't know how many people have died on that stretch in Zambia. Most of the accidents I know happened along there. That's one of the place, one, they should have that shock factor that accidents happen here, you should slow down. And then two, those are the areas where they should also think of having, you know, trauma centers, because accidents happen there and they need to be in a trauma center, a hospital, if I look at it from the medical side of things, where somebody should quickly get to the hospital, because most people either die on the spot or on transit, or when they get to where they're going, because nothing could have been done where they're coming from. So we need to have a certain shock factor to make people respond to certain things. The mollycoddling that is done in the Western world, I think it doesn't really work so well in our culture. People need to be shocked a bit in order to respond to what's going on. When an accident happens, everybody becomes aware. Within 2 weeks, they forget and they are back to normal, which is what should stop. So we need to educate everybody and put signs where accidents have happened. People have to know, and you know, through those same boards, then people start studying. Why are there many accidents happening here? Is it the way the road is? Is it a hilly place? Can it be done better? All those things are things that can be looked at. I submit.
Thank you. Mr. Kelvin Nkole, what are your thoughts? It's over to you, Kelvin.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Did I miss the question?
Yeah, I'll read the question again. Yeah, we were talking about the statistics, and the question was, Mr. Monga attributed factors such as low compliance levels of most of the road users and singled out motorists, motorcyclists, and pedocyclists. Would you agree with that assertion? And they could be more, or they could be more. If so, what would they be?
Yeah, the
Over
increase
to you,
of
Kelvin.
the increase in traffic
saying
numbers.
he's saying increase of traffic is the cause, increase of motor vehicles.
It's one of, I think it's definitely one of the reasons we have an increase in accidents. There are many more vehicles, and we can guarantee a lot of those vehicles are being driven by either unlicensed drivers or poorly trained drivers. I can actually say many are poorly trained, or just drivers who don't care.
So Kelvin,
Plus, Plus, I think there's also the fact that drivers of vehicles don't have much regard for other road users, like those on bicycles, pedestrians, and generally other road users. You will find people hooting at someone on a bicycle to get out of the way. Yeah, when you're approaching a roundabout, you expect someone to give way to even someone on a bicycle, but they'll hoot at that person to get out of the way.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But
yeah,
Kelvin, you lived in Brighton. Their
mhm.
cyclists have got their own roads. Don't you think going forward we need to have lanes for cyclists?
Well, that's the ideal. In some places we have side roads that are used by cyclists, but on many of our roads, there's that provision isn't there. So it's just a matter of drivers being courteous to other road users, and it's one of the rules in our highway code to
Mm,
show courtesy to other road users, but it's
Yeah.
quite often ignored.
yeah. Mr. Bimber, what are your
Um,
thoughts before we go to the next part? I think
yes,
we've talked about most of them here, but you can add some more if you want.
yeah, yeah. I agree. It's compliance levels. Again, it comes down to compliance in terms of the drivers themselves, and also compliance to the fitness of the vehicles themselves on the road. That's key. Um, yes, there are a lot of vehicles on the roads, but as I suppose, I mean, every country has got so many cars on their roads. I think it's has to be a planned for thing. And we've also talked about this, you know, having courtesy to other road users. I've seen like I was nearly bashed at what Marshlands. There was a zebra crossing there. I thought it was a zebra crossing that just pass the vehicle automatically stop because there is someone on the zebra crossing. I was told don't even try that because the vehicles they've got the right of way rather than the pedestrian. So is again comes down to the whole training and thing. I kind of liked Barbara's shock factor. I don't know whether this the it can hinges on obviously data privacy and security. How about, I mean, Mr. Ray Amonga said there are people, admission of guilty and whatever. How about putting some of these names in the newspapers?
Shame factor. Shame factor.
I know it's a bad in terms of data privacy and whatever, but maybe it could be a deterrent in a way that
Name and shame.
people saying, oh yeah, twali mimona mu newspaper. So yeah, there could be some of those low-lying fruit that the government can pick on. But again,
Mr. Bimbe, Mr. Bimbe, just hold your thought. What about putting those statistics on billboards in the highways? Big billboards.
Yeah. I mean, it is okay, but then we've got to look at also our reading culture. I don't know whether that would work. What works, I think, in some of our culture is the visual. It's more like, when COVID came, we were saying, oh yeah, there's no COVID, but immediately it affects someone, you can put a face to some. I think it helps. Maybe drama, a lot of drama, especially in schools. We used to have those kind of things, the road traffic people.
Mr. Bimbe, hold your thought. We're gonna come to that part, that question.
So there are a number of things, that we could do, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay. We moving on. We're going to the last sets of question. We've talked about the causes, the contributing factors. Now we need to talk about the interventions. So the last question, while Mr. Amonga mentioned the contributing factors, unfortunately, there was no hint of what measures they are putting in place or planning to. What would be your thoughts on some of the possible measures or interventions that the government, the road users, and all interested parties could be looking at? I'll start with Mr. Kelvin Nkole. Over to you, sir.
I really can't blame the police for not having intervention measures. Their job is to enforce the law.
Mm,
So for them, they only enforce after you've broken the law. If you haven't broken the law, they'll just watch you. But I think for organizations like RTSA, I
mm,
think part of their mandate is to educate road users on the correct use of the road. So they're the ones to come up with or to implement intervention measures. But even as citizens, there's nothing to stop us from doing things as even as a non-profit, like a charitable organization that does road safety awareness, like those that shock treatment, putting up a billboard on Lusaka Kabwe Road to say so many people have died in this spot.
mm,
And yeah, watch your speed.
mm. It's
I
true.
don't think RTSA would stop you from doing that. If you say this, we want to come up with this awareness campaign, and this is how we want to do it,
Mm,
and you put those billboards along the way, and if you say if people are not observing the speed limit in certain sections, you say, okay, if you drive at that speed, this is how a car ends up. That's driving at that
mm,
speed. I remember when I was working for a consulting firm, we, because of driving up and down the country quite a bit, we had to attend this driver awareness course, and they
mm,
used shock treatment. That shock treatment convinced me that anyone sitting in the back seat needs to wear a seat belt as well,
mm,
because once a vehicle comes to an abrupt halt, that person in the back seat will take out the front in the people in the front seat. They become a missile. We were shown
mm,
pictures of how people sitting in the back seat ended up flying through the windscreen,
mm,
and you wouldn't believe it. Mm. They used shock treatment to educate you on how to drive properly, make sure people in the car are safe, and even on safety ratings of vehicles. A lot of us, when buying vehicles, we don't look at the safety rating. We just say, this car looks nice. But you don't look at whether it's got airbags, does it have side impact airbags, and yeah, things like that. We don't look at the safety rating. We just think, this car looks nice. I want that car. So I think those are interventions that can be done even through a non-profit organization or a charitable organization, if you like. We don't need to wait for government to do everything. Thank you.
Now, Kelvin, before you move, uh, some countries like South Africa, they've banned importation of second-hand cars from Japan. If you
Mhm.
import one, you pay 200% duty, which means it's as good as
Phew.
buying a brand new internally. And also, they've banned importation of retread tires.
Oh
Don't
yeah,
you
those.
think? Don't you think that can be, because those cars are refurbished, they are autorec. We don't even know their history. Don't you think that can be a good measure
Well,
intervention?
I think not necessarily, because people need to move from point A to point B, and one of the reasons South Africa does that is because they assemble and manufacture a lot of vehicles
Mm,
in South Africa anyway, and we don't.
mm,
We don't manufacture here, and a
mm,
lot of people rely on those vehicles as a mode of transport. I think what needs to be done is just awareness on which cars are safe, which cars aren't safe, and even for people to pay attention to the grading of these vehicles. So when you go into these second-hand websites, they'll tell you, the grade of the
Mm.
vehicle. If it's a poor grade, why are you importing a very low grade vehicle? Maybe
Mm.
there can be a higher import duty on those lower grade vehicles.
Just to hold your peace, back Kelvin. Hold your
Mm.
peace in a minute. I think countries like Zimbabwe, I think it's Zimbabwe or Botswana, they can allow you to import a second-hand vehicles, but it shouldn't be more than
Hmm.
10 years.
Hmm.
Do you think that's a good measure, intervention?
I don't know. I really can't say. Yeah, because these cars are imported for different reasons.
Mm.
Mm.
Okay.
If we were
That was,
trying to protect an industry, yes, it would be a good measure. But I don't know how much the age of the vehicle contributes to accidents.
okay.
Probably doesn't.
Okay. As long as
Mm.
it's got a good safety history, it doesn't matter how old
Exactly.
the car is. Okay, that's
Exactly.
fantastic. Over to you, Barbara, on solutions or interventions.
So again, I'll keep saying educating the masses. People need to be educated. You know, the same teachings that we used to have from primary school about road safety in us KK children. There was so much education those days about road safety, what you're supposed, even a small child knew what they were supposed to do, which car was good. You would tell your parents to slow down because you'd learnt about it from school. That's
Mm.
very, very important. And then the penalties have to be high enough to deter somebody who's about to do the wrong thing. You know, if you here in the UK, if you got on a train, the deterrent for not having a ticket on the train is something like £1,000 or something ridiculous like that.
Mm.
And the train ticket is probably maybe wherever you'll be going, it could be maybe £10, £20. And then the
Mm.
deterrent is so high. That's how it's supposed to be. The deterrent for breaking road safety rules should be so high that people should avoid it. Because if the deterrent is so low, like we've been saying, that if they go to pay it, they just pay and forget because they don't want to go to court. It should also be that they tell themselves, I don't want to part with so much money the next time, so I won't do it again. That way, we are doing something. If the deterrent is something so low that you can pay it 3 times a week and it won't affect your pocket, then that's not good enough. It has to be an amount that means something, something that will literally deter the user from committing that crime again, or the avoiding, making a mistake. Because whether it's pedestrians, whether it's drivers, whether it's cyclists on the road, the health of those people matters. And when something goes wrong, it's really devastating because it's not only a life lost, sometimes it's a generation. It's the people that drive in most of these roads on our roads are also the homeowners, most of them. So if somebody dies, you're also damaging a particular family. So the deterrence has to be really, really, really high to protect people's families and welfare. Sometimes the people we protect don't know that we are protecting them. That's why the tough love has to exist in any country. The people we protect don't know that we are protecting them. Sometimes you have to be tough in order to protect your citizens. So that has to be done. There's no point in losing lives and then start praying that let's have a national prayer to pray against accidents, to pray about, oh, so many accidents are happening. I think something is happening in Zambia. We need to pray. We need to
Mm.
ask ourselves in our roads, in the streets where we live, why is this happening? How many people drive when they are drinking? How many people do these things? And educate our masses instead of just putting a blind eye to things and hoping they resolve themselves. Again, as we talk about independence, these are the things we should be independent with our minds and our thoughts so that we can develop our country. If we don't do that, we'll forever be blaming everybody else. The minute we stop blaming the next person, the next agent of the devil, that's when we start developing. I submit.
Yeah, thank you so much, Barbara. But Kelvin, I know you're running out of time. I just want to put you on the spot with one or two questions, and then you can make your closing remark, and you can leave, and then Bimber would do his part. Kelvin, there are a few questions I want to ask you. You live in Zambia. You've lived here. Here in the UK, mostly weekends and during the festive season, or when you are involved in an accident. I've been involved in an accident in the UK on my own. Nobody else was involved. And the first thing the police did when they came was to ask for a breathalyzer to 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 check if I've taken alcohol. And they told me if you refuse, we'll take you to court. So it's either I refuse or they take me to either I take it or they take me to court. That's one part. And then do policemen do that? If you're overspeeding or they stop you, because here when they stop you, especially at night on a weekend, they would do that. That's the first part of the question by Kelvin. And then the other question I wanted to ask you was on the issue of you see, Kelvin, I'm even forgetting my question. Okay, go ahead and answer that question. I'll remember the question.
On breathalyzers, I think sometimes they do. They even do random breathalyzer checks, especially as we approach the festive season. They tend to go out, and it's mostly the RATSA officers who do that. I don't know about the police, and well, probably one reason they don't always do it is you probably know that a breathalyzer test kit comes with some disposable parts that need to be bought. Yeah, you can't blow into something someone else has blown on, so they need to replace those. I don't know if they're called membranes or whatever.
Mm,
So when they run out of those, then they can't do breathalyzer checks on everyone. But when they do have them, especially around the festive season, they do breathalyzer checks. I've never been breathalyzed myself, and I wouldn't say they breathalyze drivers every time. But for drivers who end up injured and in hospital, they do take blood if they suspect that a driver was driving drunk. And a breathalyzer test can't be used in court, which is why they rely on blood. A
okay,
breathalyzer test.
here in the UK they can use it, and
Sure.
the insurance can even stop. They can even refuse to pay y- to compensate you if your vehicle is damaged. But the question I wanted to ask you, Kelvin, before you go, um, the UK adopted, I think it's the Australian system of point system as one of the deterrents. You know
Hmm.
about that. Every fine you get over speeding, whatever, you get 3 points, and then four penalties, you lose your license. You have to go
Hmm.
back and retrain and do that. That's one part. And then I remember I'd never had a fine at all. And then I drove through the red lights. And
Hmm.
what they sent me a letter to tell me that they will either grab my driver's license and go for retraining, or I should go for a special training, which I'm going to pay the money for myself. And after I do that training, within 3 years, I shouldn't commit a similar crime, or else they'll grab my license. Don't you think that Zambia has such interventions? And don't you think those are important for Zambia? Over to you.
There's been talk about introducing points on licenses, I think, for some time. But I think it's the record keeping that isn't up to date. But with the improvement in RATSA's system, where everything is now computerized, it would be much easier to track where if you own a vehicle and your license is in the system and it's attached to that vehicle, for them to track points. But I don't think they haven't implemented it. I don't know that it's been implemented, but it's definitely something that's been talked about. And I think it would be good to follow up on how much traction they've managed to achieve on that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kelvin Nkole, for your contribution. I know you tight with time.
Yeah,
You you are excused. You can go before I can
thank
bring
you
in
very much.
You're
It
welcome.
has been a
Thank you so
pleasure.
much.
Thank
Yeah,
you
and
very
now
much.
what
And
will be
apologies, I have to exit a bit early.
no
No
problem.
problem.
What we'll be talking about next is to bring somebody from LATSA and the police, and then we can bring you guys again. We'll definitely do that. This is just part one because this is a
Thank you.
serious situation. Yeah, over to you, Mr. Bimber, on interventions.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah, we've talked a lot on these, I think, on the interventions and a lot. Um, I'll have to agree that education is important. Awareness is the best we can do. I know it takes long to change people's behaviors, but the more you talk about it all the time, I hope it can work. There could be Kelvin has mentioned using the NGOs, the charities, others. But Barbara mentioned about even in churches, so that could be the starting point, as well as the curriculum that we talked about in the driving license issuance thing. The other thing is enforcement. What causes law compliance? Is it because law compliance, to me, I take it is people are aware how they're supposed to behave, but they decide not to behave, which means they're not following the rules. Why are they not doing that? Is it lack of enforcement? Is it lack of deterrence? So I think we need to approach that. I think the idea of a stick and carrot approach could be maybe used where, for example, you're just talking about Kelvin on the point system. Once the systems are there, you talk about given an option whether they grab your license or you go for training. So that's a kind of carrot and stick approach where you say, okay, so you weigh it and say, yeah, if I do this, the repercussions for me as an individual is very big because I need this transport to do A, B, C, D. So that could be another way. The another way is just offering some of the incentives, probably working with the whole insurance companies and others. Even just offering, maybe incentives in terms of if you make sure your vehicle is taken for road fitness, you get a discount, and there could be a lot of that. But if you don't, then the eternal brick falls on you. So it should be a combination of that. The long term also is on the infrastructure. I think the easiest we could do is obviously road marking, signage is important on that. But we also need to make our roads better, build better roads. But however, as I've said earlier, building more roads doesn't mean that you are actually decongesting, as research has shown. The more roads you build, the more vehicles are there. So you need, in cities like where I am, it's they penalize road car owners, by making sure people are moved to public transport. But coming to Zambia, it could be difficult to move people onto the public transport system because places is non-existent. As what Barbara has mentioned, it's not safe in some places. So yeah, it's a kind of working together. There are good things that we can do quickly and again, and there are those others that can be taken up further. Another thing is now that we've got even all these statistics, I think it would be a good idea to collect as much statistics so that people are able to come as we create, because money is not, in abundance. If we understand these statistics properly, we can kind of provide intervention where the effect is much more based on the data that is already there, rather than just throwing money at anything. So that could be one way of looking at things. I rest my case.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bimber. We've got Mr. Mukelebai here. Mr. Mukelebai, happy Independence Day and welcome to TVBakwetu.
Thank you, my brother. Happy Independence Day to our brothers and sisters in Zambia and those in the diaspora. Hope mlifia wino.
Yeah. So you know our topics. Our topic today. We've been talking about the high incident of road accidents. We talked about the contributing factors. The source of information. Most of it was was from Lusaka Times, which was issued by police spokesperson Mr. Ray Monga, and that was published in October this month, early this month, on the 10th of October, somewhere there. And we've also talked about interventions. So if you got a question for the panel or you want to make some comments, over to you.
A lot has been said already, and I don't need to repeat. I think you guys have tackled most of the issues. My concern is just on the type of vehicles that we drive on our roads back home, and whether they are they are fit for use on the road, and where they're serviceable, and where we have, like here, we have this European control, and no, we have road fitness in Zambia, but because of corruption, people just get a truck which has no tires and then put it on the road, and then and issue the certificate even when the vehicle is not functioning well. So to me, I find that a little bit sad that most of these accidents, they are preventable. These are human errors. Most of these, they're human errors. The speed limits. I was there in April. The road from Livingston to Lusaka to Livingston, I cannot ask for any other type of a road. That was perfect. A beautiful road that I've ever driven on in my own country. I was so proud to say, at least this country have done something. But now, when I look at the other road, the other side of the province, where you go out in the rural areas or the copper belt, you see the way we drive our vehicles. Brothers, it's quite sad. It's quite sad. Us, the human beings, are the ones that are busy killing ourselves because we think we can actually defeat the law of gravity. We want to drive the car, musiriza speedometer. What happens? With these cars that we buy from China, Japan, they're second-handed vehicles. They are second-hand vehicles. Even if they come with a new number plate, nothing. These are used cars. And when we drive them on our road, these nicely roads that are being built, what happens? That's why we are busy killing ourselves and killing innocent souls. It's us. My truck drivers, they are fatigued. They drive, they want to meet the target, they want to drive as many trips as possible. And at the end of the day, they're human beings. They get tired, but they want to do it anyways. And what happens? They cause accidents. Even bus drivers, public transport drivers. So there are so many causes, but the main cause that is claiming most of our lives is preventable. It's us, human error, our error. We are avoiding, we take things for granted. That's why we can even drink and drive. We can be slapped, I'm a punishment, but I'm a punishment, but we don't even change. Tomorrow will find us, especially when you have money. You just pay the penalty, and then tomorrow you are found driving. I was driven by this is quite unfortunate. I was in Livingston. I'm not gonna name the person. I was offered a ride. I was having a drink with this gentleman, and we were having these hard drinks, this liquor, and then he asked me at the end of the day, I can drop you home. I was like, murefa kunsha kunganda, but twachilanu bonse. Are you not drunk? Oh, no, Mister. I can. I said, no. Let's call a taxi. And Bambo Kunsekat, I have been Europeanized. I was being pushed down. I even felt bad. And in Mazabuka, when I dropped at one point in Mazabuka, this was another incident. I met this friend of mine, and then there was a vehicle coming to get people from Mazabuka to Lusaka. Nibadawatuma taxi to Nono. And this taxi had no seat belts, had no amadoors yaku pushing her. Then I said, but this car does not look good. Yeah, I was named, I was called named that I'm bragging. Ndeyumfwa, I've changed. I felt so sad that how could I prevent myself from dying? I want to jump on a car that looks okay, that is roadworthy. Elo mulenseka. Peer pressure. At in engine stage one, I join in and I just jump in because I'm Zambian. I have to prevent myself, Devio. So that's what happened, and I feel like it's those little things, details that really makes people come up with terrible decisions. And then ngatwafuira munshira atiyo ninshitafyeyash. It was lesser. Or you start connecting nefya kwa Satan or whatever. That's not okay. We can prevent those things, Vachirush. So me, otherwise, that's what I can say for now. I think you've done namlanda karefyonse, especially on the technical part, nama statistics, LFY kwa namkwatama facts on the platform, which is very good. So I rest my peace.
Thank you so much, Brother Muke. And Dr. Barbara, any closing remarks?
First and foremost, I didn't say the happy independence when I started. So happy independence to everybody. And like they've said today, the theme is to remember the peace in the country so that we can be economically prosperous. That's the theme of the independence. And then on top of that, us who are born free, as they are calling us who were born after independence, are much more detrimental than those who were born before independence. Those who were born before independence followed the rules. They were up to time with everything. They reported to work on time. Then us who are born free, somehow, somewhere, we've had a dissociation with reality. That's where all these things are happening. We have the entitled culture. Everyone wants to be paid something. As a result, it's causing so much havoc. It's damaging ourselves. We wouldn't be talking about all these accidents because part of it, there's also corruption involved. You can pay for anything. You can buy anybody. You can pay for something in the easy way that in the end causes so much harm. You have people who don't have licenses on the road. If they are stopped, they can just pay somebody some money. You have people who can't qualify to get their licenses. They can pay somebody and they get that license. So once we stop all these habits, which boils down to education and loving one another, going back to the same Kaunda theme that everybody was taught when we were young. love your neighbor, have that humanism spirit within you to know that you're your brother's keeper, even on the roads, even in your house, wherever you are. Right now, we're living in the culture of my brother is my bank my bank pass or my bridge to go to the next level. We've all joined this culture of stepping on one another to get to the next level instead of holding hands and moving together and developing the country that we want to see our great grandchildren grow in. We want our children to grow in a country where they're safe, where they can drive properly and they're safe, where they can be in their house and it's safe, where they can be in a hospital and they know they will be safe and be looked after there. They can walk on the streets and they know they will be safe. To do that, we have to take much responsibility because to us, we are born free. So much has been given to us, and we have to now take so much responsibility. How do they say in that film? To whoever is it, Superman, whatever they say. To whom so much is given, so much is expected. So us who've received so much for free, we have to put our feet down in order to maintain a country that is safe. And so with the roads and everything, we have to educate the masses, educate everybody. It's so easy to educate people if you put your eyes on it. If they're talking about maybe something wrong on social media, if they're talking about something negative, it flies within seconds. 2 million have heard about it. The same way, we should put our feet down to educate our masses on road safety, to educate our masses on how to be a peaceful, prosperous nation by being responsible. We owe it to our future children, our great grandchildren, and to ourselves. We want a Zambia that was the way it was. When I was young, even just Independence Day like it is today, they used to give food at school. You have so many things, and the neighbors' houses were open. You would eat everywhere. No, but I didn't even have a clue that there was such a thing as kids missing, all those things that are going on right now. We have to take a responsibility to be each one's keeper. Ubuntu and humanism have to be the way in order for us to be stable and uh, enhance our economy and prosper. I submit.
That was fantastic, Dr. Barbara. You know, some of the things I got there is we have to be patriotic Zambians. We have to love one another, and one Zambia, one nation. Those things are very important. And Ubuntu, Barbara. If we care about one another, there's no way you would want to bash on somebody or somebody being involved in an accident. You will be so careful when you're on the road, and that's the only way Zambia can prosper and move forward.
Mm,
And also, we need to leave a legacy to our children,
mm.
you know, and our great grandchildren and our grandchildren. Mr. Bimbe, your closing remarks.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we covered most of the things. All what I would have to say is, yeah, as we're moving towards the festive season, I think we as drivers, we need to be careful. We need to take into account of other road users and just become good drivers, good citizens. Good driver doesn't mean you have to be speeding all the time. You have to show your skills like skidding on the roads. It's about being courteous to other road users. Stop at the pedestrian crossing if there's someone else. If someone is moving nowadays with all these mobile phones, people will be walking, headphones on, without realizing they're on the road. Don't put your horn on because you startle that person. Just slow down and make sure they leave the road and move on. So it's, at the end of the day, let's not be aggressive on the road to mean that we are the best drivers, we own the cars. Anybody who doesn't own a car is somehow disadvantaged, is someone lazy, not what there are all sorts of things like they are poor. But it shouldn't be like that. Owning a car is just a means of transport. So we need to do that. But I also want, it's high time, again, we urge this government departments responsible to start putting in systems, as we've heard from Kelvin. There are systems now being put in place. If they can be actualized, having a digital footprint helps in terms of reducing the surfaces for corruption, or that, especially in our licensing regimes, and also generally in the way fitness is carried out, as well as insuring those vehicles is concerned. As to Zambia having a lot of second-hand vehicles, yes, there are a lot of those kind of vehicles. However, I think having, as Kelvin has mentioned, a kind of safety ratings for those, it will be very critical, as well as the database can show that these are roadworthy vehicles. Age of the vehicle really doesn't matter as long as the vehicle has got its structurally sound. Normally, age of vehicles comes down to protecting the environment, because some vehicles don't have those catalytic converters for the environmental purposes. However, I think it boils down to just being a safe driver, having courtesy for other road users. Thank you.
That was fantastic, Mr. Bimber. Closing remarks, Mr. Nkole, 2 minutes.
Bitumezi bo Chilufya. Haiva batu bapalelwa, I'll speak closely. Haiva mwapalelwa kumatsali mota, amuleke mikolo. You go and stay by the river so you can be driving, you paddling canoes like Kwabulos. Us in Western Province, we are okay. I think we are set, especially our brothers in Kalabo. We no accidents. We have canoes. But that was just a light moment. Otherwise, during this, as Bimber, I've spotted that we are coming towards the festival season. So this is where now okusamwa abantu bambi batemwa sana okusamwa, because they want to enjoy themselves and drive at the same time, including, actually, so sad, the law enforcers themselves go with vehicles to the bar and drink. You find there's no parking space at that place called Polo something. I was there at one time. It's fully booked, packed, fully packed. Come 04. I was like, how did those people drive back home? And you find inside there, the tables are black. Is it at the full out the tables? Now my worry is, how do they manage to go back home? And then when they cause accident and kill people, then we want to blame God or Juju. No. Let's protect ourselves. Let's work. Let's develop our country. Because those many souls we are losing a lot of human resource. Those are very resourceful. Some of those people dying are breadwinners in most of these families. And we don't want to lose so many lives at just because of our own negligence, human error. Isen tupose kwa mano, mwema minibus drivers, ngamuletu mfwa, behave yourselves, drive in a normal and orderly manner, because you carry many lives. Let's avoid that incident here. Those lives that we lost, we'll never get them back. It's because of one individual that decided to do something stupid on the road. So let's not do those things. Let's just do the right thing, drive safely. Na mwamama passengers nga mwamona conductor or driver alleged to misbehave, drinking and driving, please, you have the right to arrest that person. Citizen arrest or jump out of the vehicle. Don't waste your life like that. Otherwise, I'm just wishing everyone independence, happy Independence Day. We are being liberated slowly. We are now 58. We are getting there. Rome was not built in one day. Americans today praise that America is a beautiful, developed country. Took them 200 years. So we are on the right trajectory. Let's support the current government and let's work together in unity. Let's stop this politics of hate, finger pointing, but let's just hold on and work, especially the youths, brothers, you people who have good businesses, tap the knowledge from these little citizens, the youths, very intelligent, very, very up to date. Let's tap their knowledge and bring development to our country. You will be surprised how the youths are going to surprise us. They are the future of tomorrow. And let's not be lazy. That's my last advice. Buzwa. Tantameni yaripwa. Thank you, Chilufya.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mkeleba. You've mentioned about the youth. And I think these are the people who needs to be taught how to drive properly, be educated on how to use their vehicles to drive. I think we need to start with them. And then we've got a future of good drivers, people who cares about other people going forward. And thank you so much for all my guests. Dr. Barbara, that was fantastic. Mr. Bimber, thank you so much. Mr. Kelvin Nkole is gone. Thank you so much. Mukelebai, though you came late, thank you so much for your contribution. And once again, thank you so much to all our viewers all over the world. And happy independence to our lovely mother Zambia. Bye for now. Thank you.
Thank you.